Welcome to April, a month of uncertainty when it comes to Call of Duty. Later this month, we'll have our Season 3 launch for Warzone and Vanguard. Right now, that looks to be slated around the 26th or 27th off the top of my head, but that stuff's certain. What I mean by uncertainty is in relation to the upcoming project later this year, the presumed and all but officially confirmed Modern Warfare 2 developed by Infinity Ward. April is uncertain times because there's the possibility that we could start to see more leaks, teasers, maybe even official reveals for this upcoming project. Today, I wanted to start our month out with a bit of a recap in regards to everything that we really know about the multiplayer gameplay side of things that we've heard from insiders for a bit now. A little bit later on down the line, in like a week or two, I've got an everything you need to know about Modern Warfare 2 recapping everything, and I mean everything that we've heard about the game so far, so that if you've missed anything, you can find it all in one up-to-date location. But for now, I wanted to focus a bit more on the multiplayer side of things. As we go along, drop your thoughts down below. Are you guys looking forward to anything in particular out of Modern Warfare 2, or what we assume to be Modern Warfare 2 this year? Are you looking forward to the campaign, multiplayer, third mode, rumored to be the Escape from Tarkov style mode of DMZ, or perhaps Warzone 2? Whatever the case, drop your thoughts down below. If you're new to the channel, do be sure that the subscribe button is dedicated to all things Modern Warfare 2 and in the loop with any updates, news, and information as it happens. And finally, my friends over at Carnage, my team here, just launched a second Shaker Cup with our friends at G Fuel. If you want to pick one up, it's a tall boy, perfect for gym sessions, those double scoop days, whatever your heart desires. You know what they say, bigger is indeed hang on, who tried to slip that in the script? Anyways, if you're interested in picking one up, the link's in the description below, and you can use code Espresso to net yourself a discount. But anyways, let's jump into it. So as always, when we discuss leaks and things of this nature, it's been said when it comes up before, and I'll continue to say it again here to give as much clarity as possible. Number one, leaks, rumors, and anything data mined should all be taken with a grain of salt. Until anything is showcased to us explicitly from Activision, Infinity Ward, or any of the Call of Duty official platforms, you should absolutely approach everything with an air of skepticism. Even the most accurate reports from a title in development are exactly that, reports of something in development. Subject matter, design decisions, and all are always subject to change and could be adjusted from the time that it's reported to when it's actually seen in a live environment. And number two, the information today is from industry insiders, people who we've talked about here on the channel before, like Tom Henderson, Ralph's Valve, the MW2 Ghost, the Ghost of Hope, and others who've had track records that have checked out in the past. Again, as always with stuff like this, an air of skepticism is of course warranted, but their reputations precede them and offer up a bit more weight to their claims, given other things have already checked out. So let's talk about the game itself here to start out in our recap. If you guys remember back in February, it was reported that Modern Warfare was apparently looking good and already in the alpha stage of development. Now, that's awesome to hear and was the start of some good news to follow. Though for a lot of people, you may only be familiar with the beta phase of a game, and that's something that's not so complete of a build, in air quotes there. So why is alpha good news, especially in February of the launch year? And that's a good question for those that are unaware. This is something that definitely could use clarification. It's a very, very common misconception, one that even I was guilty of just until a few years ago before diving really headfirst into dealing with any game dev or anything like that, hearing more perspective and insight from developers themselves. A common misconception is that alpha means unplayable or nowhere near finished. If you're thinking that alpha is like a basic poly design, those stick animations to act as player models, that's where you're wrong. Alpha is simply just the first draft of the final product. The best comparison that I've had here, and may stretch your memory a bit here for us air quote old folks who've been out of school for a long time, the best example I can think of is a first draft of an essay or term paper. You've done all the research, all the crafting of ideas, the flow of the writing is in place. What you have on that first draft is definitely something that is legible, it tells a story, you can definitely turn it in, but you want to revise it, double, triple, and however many checks you want to feel necessary before you actually submit that essay. That's kind of the same thing here with game development. In terms of game dev, those additional checks that you end up doing after that first draft can be anything from polishing off any world bugs to the more minuscule things like tweaking weapon balance values. Alpha doesn't mean unplayable, but rather it's the first entry of the full product in a potentially live and acceptable state. For comparison, back in February, this was the actual earliest that I've seen a COD game go into an alpha. Modern Warfare 2019 previously held that, where I personally ended up seeing that in April of 2019. Now, design decisions and everything like that aside, it was absolutely a playable build and it felt good, fundamentally speaking. One thing that we expanded upon in a video beforehand is that it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a perfect game or anything that's the be-all end-all because it's in alpha earlier, but rather that there's been less interruptions in development, that they've approached that state quicker than other games in the past. So theoretically speaking, it should be a little bit more smooth sailing, and what we get as a final product should then be a little bit more ironed out, as opposed to maybe bug-ridden or anything like that. Again, design decisions, whether or not you like the stuff here in-game, that is entirely independent of that kind of stuff. Now, as for actual MP details, we're going to jump into some tweets here from some insiders, the MW2 Ghost and the Ghost of Hope. Now, Ghost ended up going on a couple of weeks ago, a little bit of a tweet spree talking about some things where he said the following: movement is faster than Modern Warfare 2019, but not as fast as Vanguard. Map design is led with the concept of retaining the traditional Call of Duty experience while staying true to the Infinity Ward flair. Doors were seen on a number of maps, but of course, them being present or missing from the final build isn't 100%. Map designs can be similar to DLC maps from Modern Warfare 2019. Oil Rig, Condor Hideout, Sawmill, more brighter aesthetic. Combat pacing is seemingly planned to return as well. Classic and Blitz, though subject to change. UAV, Sentry Gun, Chopper Gunner, Soundwave apparently, that distorts hearing, similar to an EMP, but audio instead of visuals, in terms of kill streaks. And at the time, he mentioned that the Classic minimap was present, which could be subject to change at that point. Though, Hope, as we'll talk about here, mentioned this again a little bit more in depth, in which his sources ended up giving more updated information a couple of weeks later. Now, according to Hope, before we get to that minimap section here with this, he ended up starting out with one big topic of discussion here, that being perks. He stated that Modern Warfare 2 will change how players approach picking perks with their classes. He said that he wouldn't post exact details, but it sounds pretty interesting and not as bad at all thus far. He later elaborated that Modern Warfare 2 is approaching perks in the way that you can choose 4 perks, this meaning that you can get to choose 2 in the first column, 1 in the second column, and 1 in the third column. And from what he was told, the first column is more of a choosing your playstyle. Following that up by saying you cannot change it to be 2 perks in any other category, 2 perks in that sort of perk 1 slot is all you can use, which definitely seems interesting. The first thing that I immediately thought of when this happened was that it'd be similar to Black Ops Cold War's campaign character creation. If you guys didn't play that, after the first mission, you got to create your player, who ended up being Bell. But in that, and this is just me interjecting speculation, zero idea if this will actually come into play like that, but you got to pick 2 perks that stuck with you the entire duration of that campaign, each perk offering up some unique abilities. Things like Paranoid increased your aim speed by 100%, Violent Tendencies increased your bullet damage by 25%, Lone Wolf increased your initial sprint boost duration, Fearless halved explosive damage received, and so on and so forth. So there are a bunch of perks that directly affected your actual play styles and how you fundamentally approach the game, so that may be something we see with the Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer experience. Now, would that be something that then limits you the entire time from level 1 upwards of Prestige 10, level 1000, or whatever they do for the ranking system? Probably not. It'd be more tethered, I would imagine, to each individual class, 1 through 10, where you could switch in-game, but kind of had that sort of idea and mentality behind it. That seems to make sense to me, but I could be wrong. Now, coming back to that minimap topic here, Hope ended up stating Classic minimap is indeed present in Modern Warfare 2, no perk necessary, which is a huge win if you ask me. I hate that the past few years that minus Cold War, we've been kind of brought to the point where this is exciting news. I mean, something so fundamental as that in Call of Duty being a positive thing to be included within a game is kind of striking, but a huge win in my books here for this. I'm very much so looking forward to that if that actually is present in the traditional multiplayer experience. Now, maps wise, again, Hope ended up kind of commenting on what we saw with what Ghost ended up initiating. He ended up saying that maps are indeed more classic 3-lane style. Think Cheshire Park, Condor Hideout, Gunrunner, Hackney Yard, and Hobock Sawmill. This, again, I'm pretty cool with. I think a lot of the base games in the map were good for tactical play. I've said it before, I'll always stick by it. I think that the best mode within Modern Warfare 2019 was Search and Destroy because the game felt more built out for a tactical nature. So the launch maps were more so suited towards that, but if you were just a traditional COD player, TDM, domination, whatever, something a little bit more vanilla point and shoot type of deal, they weren't really the best maps for that. Maps like those DLC maps of Condor Hideout, Hobock Sawmill, and others like that were a bit more situated around that design intent. If we can avoid things like Piccadilly, Peak, Euphrates Bridge, Ramaza, I'm totally cool with that. So that again sounds like a good thing in my books. Hope ended up also saying that we're going to be getting a new feature and mechanic here, or rather returning, but new in the sense that you can have the opportunity to choose which one you want to do, in which he said dolphin diving will be in Modern Warfare 2 alongside sliding. So both will be present, and according to him, this is going to be something that is incorporated by a design that has been long proposed by the community, where holding your slide button will trigger the dolphin dive, but tapping it will trigger a slide. So that seems like a cool little intuitive change here to the multiplayer experience, which I'd be all for again. He also stated that Rose would be making a return as an operator, which makes sense. We've heard that Shadow Company is going to be returning as a faction within the campaign, and then also within Modern Warfare 2's multiplayer, presumably as well. He also stated there's going to be no sprint to fire times in Modern Warfare Warfare 2, which is going to be interesting. I don't know how that will all work out, meaning that you'll be able to be running while firing as well. So we'll see how that works out. Last Stand, he ended up rounding out things by saying that that's currently in Modern Warfare 2, though I don't know if I expect that to actually make the game. That was cut from Modern Warfare 2019, believe it or not, as well. So they could just be there and pitched in the basic design elements right now, but not necessarily coming back into the full product. Skill-based matchmaking, believe it or not, is also something that's been touched on by insiders as well. This, as a baseline, has been in Call of Duty every single year in some capacity. Oftentimes in the classic Call of Duty games, it was something that was applied to matches once lobbies were selected, so essentially it was just team balancing. But in recent years, it's been something that's been more noticeable, most notably in Modern Warfare 2019 as of recently, with that sort of start point where it's trying to influence matchmaking in the sense of keeping you on the game longer rather than not. So if you're having bad games, it will feed you a couple of good ones to boost that confidence level. Then whenever you're having those games, you're going to be playing a bit more competitive until you eventually get to that low point of, okay, maybe I'll get off, and then it feeds you again more. So the big question the last couple of years is, will this ever change? To which Ralph comes back into play here, and a couple of weeks back, he tweeted, despite plans for revising Modern Warfare 2's skill-based matchmaking system, disbanding lobbies are supposedly here to stay for all future premium Call of Duty titles. And following up on the clarification with revision, stating that it's, yes, going to be less debilitating. The Demonware, the matchmaking studio for Call of Duty, has had this particular system in R&D for a few years now. They're certainly against the idea of disciplining the better margin players, which is absolutely something I love to see. Granted, the people like you or I that are watching videos going out of their way to learn more or listen about Call of Duty, we are the top 1% here. The weekend warriors, the people that play 1 hour or 2 hours after a day of work or on the weekend, that's something that this kind of stuff never really affects them. It doesn't concern them. So the people that notice it, you and I, this is absolutely brilliant to hear if that does indeed hold up. I would be all for a less strict matchmaking system, though it's something that Ralph even did say that there's a fine line there. It's down to whether or not the player considers leaving the match or entirely closing the game. So they do have to walk that line, but fingers crossed. And finally, what I want to talk about here is the possibility of remastered maps. This, again, coming down from some stuff that Ralph and Hope have both said, but Ralph stating explicitly recently, with Modern Warfare 2's DLC expanding into 2023, Infinity Ward plans to incorporate more remastered maps than previously intended, spanning across Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare 2, and Modern Warfare 3. Now, that's something that, in idea, isn't something that's relatively new. We kind of thought that we'd get more Modern Warfare 2 maps, classic Modern Warfare 2 maps, in Modern Warfare 2 of 2022, because we had Modern Warfare 2 remastered in a campaign fashion, and that was then at that time in 2020, in Modern Warfare 2019's main year of content support, it was rumored that we'd end up getting more maps coming as a result of that multiplayer being withheld, so as to not split the player base even further in the two most popular games in Call of Duty's franchise at that time. But the thing is we only ended up ever getting 2 maps explicitly from Modern Warfare 2 in Modern Warfare 2019, so the theory of it coming into Modern Warfare 2 of 2022 absolutely was alive and well. But adding even more to that, that's something that is relatively interesting, given that we have this rumor that COD 2023 is going to be delayed until 2024, taking an entire gap year, adding 12 more months onto the lifespan here of what Modern Warfare 2 may end up seeing. 24 months of support rather than 12, in which case that also then brings into question what maps would be from COD 4, Modern Warfare 2, and Modern Warfare 3, and also it ties into this now prospect of a rumored subscription service coming at some point within the next year for Call of Duty, a COD 2.0 as was officially described in an Activision job listing pertaining to the upcoming title. So where we are right now is some pretty interesting stuff. We have some big changes coming to the gameplay experience compared to Modern Warfare 2019 to what could shake up and ultimately launch with Modern Warfare 2 here at the end of the year. Whether or not that comes earlier in the year in, say, a September or October timeframe, there is that rumor that we could see this launch early because Vanguard isn't doing so hot. But whenever it may launch, we could have some big changes coming from what we saw beforehand in the prequel of this Modern Warfare 2 versus what we actually see in-game come later this fall. I'm here for a lot of these changes, honestly. I think that a lot of what we've heard so far has been relatively positive, so fingers crossed that all stacks up and holds true. But for right now, that's where we're going to wrap it up, so I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback down there in the comment section down below. Is there anything in particular that you guys are really looking forward to here in regards to changes potentially coming within Modern Warfare 2 coming later this fall? Anything that you're a little bit worried about? Whatever the case, drop your thoughts down below. But if you enjoyed the video, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button so you do not miss a single thing regarding all things Modern Warfare 2, Warzone and Warzone 2, and anything COD related. We've got you covered here on the channel. So if you guys are interested, I'd love to have you in the community. That said, thanks so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.